Hi, I'm Will from Tested.
I'm Norm from Tested.
Norm, Kindle Fire HD 8.9.
That's a lot of syllables. It's Amazon's large tablet.
It's big.
Yeah, so they had the Kindle Fire, cheap tablet, and then they had the Kindle Fire HD, which is also a 7-inch tablet.
So the first Kindle Fire wasn't particularly good.
No.
The second one got much better.
Much better.
7-inch, kind of, you really love that as a 7-inch tablet.
I like this as a cheap 7-inch tablet. I would still get the Nexus 7 over this, though.
Okay.
And here, now they have the 8.9.
So the 8.9, it's called the 8.9 because it's 8.9 inches diagonally. It's kind of a tweener, I think. It's a little bit between a full-size iPad and a 10-inch iPad, 10-inch Android tablet, and then the 7-inch tablets that are significantly smaller.
So you're saying between a full-size iPad and a 7-inch, but I thought that's what the iPad Mini was.
No, the iPad Mini is small. The iPad Mini is a big 7-inch tablet.
Okay, and this is a small 10-inch tablet.
I think this is a small 10-inch tablet.
Wow.
And it actually, I liked that about it. It's a 16 by 10 screen. You're going to use most stuff in 16 by 9. The thing that's interesting about it is it's 1920 by 1080, 1200 screen.
Okay, so it's fairly high resolution. Now, a lot of people are going to say that's not as high resolution as, for example, the iPad 3 or 4.
So for all intents and purposes, I can't tell the difference between this and the iPad 3 or 4.
So when when we're talking about screens with a higher resolution than 1920 by 1200, which,
I mean,
let's be clear, there are phones with that screen resolution now. But at that point, it doesn't matter if it's 2560 by 1600 like the Nexus 10 or 2048 by 1536. Pixel density is not that important.
I mean, if you're looking for stuff that you're going to notice, the thing that's going to be big is color reproduction and font aliasing and all that.
So
stuff.
the important thing
fonts
is
render great.
Quality of the screen, the actual quality of the IPS LCD.
Yep.
The way they manufacture it, and also in the software, the font rendering. Those things are more important at this size than something like having a 2560 by 1600 resolution screen.
I think that's definitely true. There's also some stuff that happens about how the screen is bonded to the touch panel.
Yeah, so how it's manufactured.
How shallow it is in the device. This one seems to be fairly shallow in the device. It's near the surface. And the off-axis viewing angles are quite good. So whether you're holding in portrait or landscape orientation, it's easy to see.
So Amazon calls this the Fire HD, obviously, because it's full HD, 1920 by 1200. Having a larger screen resolution, like on the Nexus 10 or the iPad 3, necessitates a faster processor. So this one, it still uses a Texas Instruments OMAP.
It's a dual core.
It's a little faster than what's in the Fire HD.
Yeah, and it's a 1 rev newer, basically. I think this is a 4470 versus the 4460 in the 7-inch tablet. The big difference is all in stuff that's behind the scenes, like power management and audio and things like that. The main difference is the clock speed increase. So it's 300 megahertz faster than the 7-inch, and I think that's probably to accommodate the much higher resolution of the panel.
So what else about the hardware?
That's pretty much it. There's a couple of ports on the bottom. There's a micro USB and a micro HDMI.
So same as the Kindle Fire 7-inch also had both of those ports.
I don't know who uses that. Yeah.
I mean, micro USB makes sense. That's for charging and for moving files over. But who uses that micro HDMI?
If we were smart, we'd have micro HDMI plugged out and piped into the feed right now.
And you know, mirroring works fine. Yeah. And you get video out.
It crops off the bottom 120 pixels. So this is a 1920 by 1200 display. Yeah. It crops off the bottom 40 pixels in this case.
From 16 by 10 to 16 by 9.
Yeah. So yeah.
But who really travels and goes to a hotel room? Maybe some people do.
I could see maybe plugging it in a hotel room if you wanted to watch a movie on the hotel TV.
And you don't want to fumble with their controls.
Yeah. I mean, so this is a device. I found this to be the best when I was watching video on it. It's almost like. From the way I was using it, my wife said, "Hey, is that just a really expensive DVD player, right?" Because it's like I can see the use case I see for this is that you hang it off of the back of the minivan headrest and you plop the kids down in front of some TV for the next 12 hours while you're driving to grandmother's house.
Okay. So let's talk about video on this.
Yeah. So video, of course, it works best with the stuff out of Amazon's ecosystem. This is an instant, the Iron Man 2, which is available on Instant for Prime subscribers for free. They seem to be streaming everything at 720p. I haven't been able to find anything that says otherwise to that, and they haven't gotten back to me.
Yeah, it's just labeled HD or not HD, and HD things. So it's really upscaled from 720p to fit.
I'm not entirely sure. A couple of devices do support 1080i with Amazon Instant, to TiVo specifically. So they may be tapping into that. I don't know if most people's streaming can handle 1080p at this point. Most people's internet connections.
Right.
Of course, there's apps as well, so you can get HBO Go, I didn't install it here. HBO Go, Netflix, kind of the usual suspects. There are a few
Hulu Plus, so you don't have to be locked in to Amazon. I mean, to be clear, if you own a Kindle Fire HD, whether it's 8.9 or the 7, you should have Amazon Prime. You should be paying for that, because that's where you're going to get a lot of the benefit.
Like if you look in the store, there's this Prime swipe, and you can see what's available for free. Most of the stuff that they're advertising hard is free. And you can actually browse specifically by that stuff. So it is very useful. But when you work out the price, Prime ends up being a little bit more than Netflix on a monthly basis, because I think it's $75 a year.
But I don't think of it that way. When I pay for Prime on an annual basis, I think of it as paying for the 2-day free shipping on low-cost items, and also as a bonus getting the book library, and also on the Kindle and other apps, the Prime streaming.
So the quality of videos of movies that are available on the Prime instant streaming seems to be a lot better these days than it has been in the past.
Amazon's making a lot of deals.
Much better even than Netflix right now. It kind of goes back and forth.
It might be like they might be getting more filled out in terms of the high-profile stuff, but the browsing experience for finding movies is still terrible. Like I can't search just for Prime. When you search for Video Store, you search the entire Amazon Video Store, and I can't say, show me in ABC order a list of all the Prime movies.
Well, that's unfortunate. You can browse by category and by most recently and most popular and all that stuff.
So look here, you search Iron Man, it shows Iron Man, you can rent it, original Iron Man 299, but Iron Man 2 has Prime, so there's an identifier, but you can't say, as in with Netflix, just show me the Prime, just show me the free streaming stuff.
That is absolutely, the only way to do that is by browsing through the website. Yeah. So, or actually not through the website. You can, like, this is to browse all of Prime.
Look, so you have popular movies, and you have recently added.
And you can go to genres,
but
it's just like Netflix.
No search or ABC order.
This is the same way their apps work. I mean, you're right. It's not, you can't search.
And I think they do this to mask the fact that they don't have a very deep selection. On the surface, it's maybe getting less shallow, but it's not super deep. Like I can go into Netflix, and to be fair, Netflix isn't the best either, but I can find some random documentary stuff that Netflix has access to that Amazon might not. Viewing video, good.
Viewing video is good. I mean, you hold the device in two hands. It makes sense. It's a comfortable way to hold a player while you're watching video. I actually thought this could use a kickstand.
Oh, okay, so it's actually...
it's that much of a video viewer.
Well, it's still heavy enough that you're not going to hold it with both hands for long periods of time watching video. Your arms are going to get tired. You want to brace this against something.
It's about 20 ounces, it's about 1.25 pounds, so it's a little bit lighter than an iPad 3 or 4, which is about 1.5 pounds.
Lighter than the iPad 3.
Way more than 7-inch tablets, which are between 0.5 pound and 0.75 pounds.
So way more than something like the Nexus 7, even the Kindle Fire 7-inch, or the iPad Mini. Yeah, so this is definitely a two-handed tablet. There's plenty of bezel space around it.
Yeah, so it doesn't do the thumb detection stuff that we found on the iPad Mini, which I thought was quite good. I like having a thicker bezel better.
Yeah.
Like, you can pick this up, you hold it like this, it's comfortable, you don't have to worry about, the thing is, you're not going to hold it one-handed for very long ever. You might palm it, do this kind of maneuver where you're browsing and using the other hand on it, but it's too heavy to hold with one hand, even at 1.25 pounds.
So this is something that tablet manufacturers seem to be differentiating, both in software and hardware. On the Amazon side, both the Kindle Fire 7-inch and 8.9 have relatively thick bezels.
It's the same size bezel on each device,
Same size bezel on the 7 and the 8.9. And I like that as a way to grip it. Sure, it makes it a little bigger, but the trade-offs are easier to grip and maybe more space in the back for battery or something. On the Nexus 7, that actually has I thought a very thin bezel on the left and right side, and makes it tougher for me to hold on one hand. Neither the Nexus 7 nor the Kindle Fire HD have thumb detection in software.
Right. The thing that the difference on the Nexus is it's actually narrow enough because it's a 16:9 screen that you can hold it with one hand. And
then the iPad Mini, which we've talked about before, has a very thin bezel on the left and right sides, but because it's relatively lighter than the other tablets, it's easier to hold with one hand, and the thumb detection works.
You're not going to hold. I find myself never holding it like this, though.
So it requires a thumb detection. I prefer having a manageable bezel to grip with, rather than having it be thin on the sides and using thumb detection.
I think the thin bezel looks better. If you're sitting there looking at the store deciding which one you're going to buy, you're going to say, oh, this one, the iPad Mini has a bigger screen. I think on this, this is a more usable tablet.
So you're using this in landscape, and landscape is the way to use this, even though this is 16:10.
Yeah, so you can switch it to portrait. I find myself using it in landscape more often than not, just because when you're holding it in portrait, it's always unwieldy, whether it's tipsy on the top or tipsy on the bottom. Like there's no good balance point. You still can't really hold it one-handed, although it's a little bit more one-handable this way. You're never going to be able to hold it like that because it's way too top-heavy when you're doing that number.
And Amazon, for both the 7 and the 8.9, really want you to use it in this landscape position because that's where the speakers are.
Right.
And they're really advertising, hey, guess what? We have these stereo speakers on a tablet. And while the iPad mini actually has quote-unquote stereo speakers, they're actually both shoved on one side.
Yeah. So if you look at the way the iPad mini works, the speakers on iDevices are typically on the bottom edge. The old iPad, it was on a mono speaker on one side, stereo speakers on the bottom. So what happens is...
the stereo speakers are fixed on one side. You don't get really stereo sound. It doesn't... Stereo sound on tablets is totally BS.
So sound on tablets is what you use when you don't have headphones plugged in. If you want to watch a quick YouTube video, you use the speakers built into the tablet. If you're going to watch a movie, you're on an airplane, something like that, more than likely you're going to plug headphones in. The placement of the speakers on the bottom of the iOS devices has been bad for a long time because if you're sitting there resting it on a tray, on your lap, on a pillow, anything that's going to absorb sound, it's basically, it mutes the entire device.
Right, that's why they sell those little gadgets that
really dumb.
That blow up the sound or direct the sound toward you.
They're horns,
you kind of cup the speakers. On the Kindles, on the Kindle Fires, the speakers on the side, and I thought the speakers on the 7 were very loud for the size.
They're pretty loud for a tablet. They're right where I hold it when I'm using it. When it's in landscape,
they're low.
Like they're low. You put your hand over them. They still play reasonably well.
So in the back here, they're on the lower hand, which is why, again, you could use a kickstand.
Kickstand would be really useful on this device.
Yeah.
Especially since there aren't a whole lot of cases and stands and stuff like that available for it right now. So, I mean... They're better than other tablet speakers. I don't think it really matters. So like the Wi-Fi, which Jeff Bezos was touting during the announcement of this device.
The MIMO Wi-Fi stuff.
It's great that they put MIMO Wi-Fi in.
Yeah.
When you're since this is primarily a device you're going to download stuff from the internet rather than from a home server or something like that, it doesn't matter because the bottleneck is always going to be, at least in the US,
on the server side,
the connection between the server and your house, not between your router and your device.
Right.
You might see slightly better range with video. I have pretty good Wi-Fi coverage in my house. I was able to go in the backyard, which isn't super abnormal. It's not. Some devices can do that. iPads typically can't. The Nexus 7 can. My laptop can. So
the MIMO Wi-Fi, nothing to write home about.
Who cares?
Yeah. So we're talking about video on this because we're talking about the screen, and we can agree video on the 8.9, this 1920 by 1200 resolution screen looks good. Now, obviously, Kindles are meant for reading.
Yeah.
And how is reading on the 8.9?
Well, so let's bust open. This is the problem with the 10-inch 16 by 9, 16 by 10 tablet. When you're in landscape mode, it's 2 pages, which is okay. I find it a little bit weird on a digital device, but it's not offensive.
It's bigger than on the 7-inch.
Right, and this is a pretty small font size. I think this is the 3 setting if you're familiar. No, this is the 2 actually. So this is about the same size print as in a typical paperback. And the pages are way small for that. We end up with the same amount of words, more or less, on 1 page as you had on 2.
Yes, it actually doesn't do that on the 7-inch. 7-inch.
Well, it doesn't need to.
Yes.
I'm going to unlock the screen. Unfortunately, I have to keep locking and unlocking because of our video setup here.
And then on this portrait mode...
I just turned it off.
The portrait mode, I think is too tall for a single page.
The portrait mode, I actually locked it. Okay, here we go. So the portrait mode, I mean, it's not necessarily too tall. It's taller than I find comfortable. I kind of want a little bit a little less density in my pages.
Because you're used to the Kindle, the regular Kindle.
Yeah, so the regular Kindle, if you flip that on, Norm, you can see it's essentially the same size as a paperback screen. Maybe a little bit smaller, this paperback page. This isn't bad. It's definitely better than reading a single column in landscape. That would be really weird because those lines are going to be crazy long. How's your wrist there? It's uncomfortable. This is a two-handed read. So your fingers get tired after a relatively short period of time. It's too heavy, just like with the initial iPad.
And then this brightness, does it get low enough in the dark?
So this is something that they did actually fix this go-round on Kindle. There's no control inside the Kindle app, which is one of the things I like about the iOS Kindle app. But you can bring it all the way down to the point that it's almost invisible.
Oh wow! Yeah, I can barely see that.
Full bright screen.
I mean, if you're in your bedroom and the only thing lighting this, because it's backlit, is the Kindle.
It's fine for reading when you're laying in bed, and you won't bother your significant other, which is really the important thing when you're talking about screen brightness.
Man, those transitions are rough.
Yeah, so it's interesting you say that because the OS frequently feels kind of herky-jerky when you're rotating from one orientation to the the power button's in an awful place.
Yeah, it's right in the middle.
You
It's
keep
really
hitting
small.
it accidentally. It's really way too easy to press. The rotation, watch this rotation transition. This is real weird. First off, it takes a little while to notice.
Yep, you got to tap it. Oh, no.
And then it just, boom, swips. It's really fast.
I would call that marginally better than on the Surface RT.
Well, so at least there's a transition. It's really fast. It gets out of the way of you doing what you want to do. I don't have a problem with that. The thing that I do find is that there are places where the OS is kind of laggy and I don't want to say janky because it's not. Janky implies it's worse than it is. But for example, when you're typing things into search fields, I'm going to go here and go to the store and I'm going to try to download something. Pandora?
Sure.
Okay, so Pandora, it sees the word and it gets that that's the word I'm looking for. That's great. If I'm looking for something that's not in the dictionary, like Hulu, for example, it's going to, every time I press search, because of the way this keyboard works, it's going to automatically replace Hulu, which is typed correctly and is exactly what I'm looking for, with July. Now,
you can't click an X to say don't autocorrect?
So you can, but it's not immediately apparent. And if you're coming from iOS or even Windows or something else, you're not going to get this. The way you do it is this bar up here above the keyboard is the autocorrect bar. Mm-hmm. So you just tap the word you're looking for in there, and then it doesn't change. There's no X up here. There's only one place to do that, which is kind of like the only one place to solve this problem has been something that's plagued the Kindle from the beginning.
So the keyboard thinks it's smarter than you, the predictive text.
Yeah, and it's not. It's bad.
It's overly helpful.
There's some lag when you're doing this kind of typing. Sometimes it's a little frustrating. The keyboard I find to be frequently laggy. Hello, apps. This is me typing. It's not lagging right now, but and the autocorrection is incomprehensible.
So
sometimes.
You were just in the store looking for apps.
In the store looking for apps.
How about where typing really matters in the web browser?
In the web browser, let me get the web browser. It's over here on web. That web browser link is invisible if you're handing the tablet to somebody in portrait mode. And really, they find you have to tell people how to find the web browser on this device. I found when I handed it to people, they're like, "Hey, where's the web?"
So same, quote unquote, silk web browser as in the Kindle Fire HD, the 7-inch.
Yeah, so they do some of the rendering off on Amazon's cloud servers to improve performance of
I always turn that
JavaScript
off.
rendering. Really, I leave it on. I found it was kind of interesting.
Okay.
As long as you're on what I would guess are probably top 1,000 sites, it's okay. So let's go to Ars Technica, which is a great big site and friends of ours.
I'm going to load up that as well.
Okay, I'm going to go over there. It doesn't really seem to load any faster at all using Silk. Maybe a little tiny bit. Did you hit OK at the same time as I did?
Yeah, it might.
You're still loading.
I'm still loading.
Okay, so
that could be a rendering thing.
Mine popped up reasonably fast.
Wow, this is really slow in the 7.
The rendering is better. Seems like they put more memory in this device. They haven't officially said, but it seems like it's a gig of memory in the 8.9. So the performance on the swiping is pretty good.
Now you got to understand, when they say a gig of memory, that's not memory just to run apps. It's also memory to run graphics.
It's OS. It's the RAM for the system used for everything that the system does.
And because this has a high resolution display than the 7 and the previous Kindle Fire, it necessitates more memory.
So there's some things that you can't do, like the double tap to zoom in.
For the columns.
To a column is a little bit weird.
You got to manually do that.
And when you zoom, it does it kind of zooms at low resolution and then chunks in.
That's the good way. You want to. That's the better way.
It's the performance on the chunking is the problem.
Okay.
Sometimes it chunks very quickly. Sometimes it takes a second.
Yeah.
To chunk.
The Android browsers were bad because they re-rendered on the fly as you zoom.
Yeah, that was bad. Clearly. So the browser is okay. The browser is probably my third favorite browser on mobile right now.
Behind Safari.
Behind Chrome is probably number one.
Which still runs under. You mean in terms of both rendering and also usefulness?
If we want to talk about rendering, Chrome Android seems to be the best. If we want to talk about general usefulness, which I think is more important at this point, since everybody's rendering pretty well, the ability to sync your bookmarks, send links from your PC to your browser, open tabs to your tablet rather, open tabs from other devices and things like that, make Chrome incredibly useful if you're a Chrome desktop user, which I happen to be.
And like with the other Kindles, you can't really install there.
Yeah, so that brings up an interesting point. You can theoretically root this device, install Google Android Play App Store, all of that stuff on here. It's not a one-click root. I mean, I know a lot of phones make rooting very easy these days. Amazon clearly has interest in keeping you in their ecosystem, so they're going to make it a little more difficult. If you've rooted phones before, if you've rooted, say, Galaxy S phones, Galaxy S2, something like that, it's not going to be a problem. If you've never rooted something before, it might be a little tricky. There's some command line stuff you have to do.
And in the settings, which I'm trying to dig up right here.
You go to more.
There it goes. You can authorize it to install.
You can install
apps that are not that aren't approved by Amazon.
Yeah, so you can install APKs that are not signed by Amazon. Actually, no, you can't. They took that out.
Go back.
This isn't security, maybe?
Yeah.
You can also install some Google services on non-rooted Kindle Fires. Although judging by the thread on the message board I looked at about that, it's a little bit spotty whether stuff works. Like you may be able to use Maps, but you won't be able to sign in. You may be able to use Drive, but you can't edit documents, stuff like that. So if you want to use this for Google Apps, you should probably just buy a Nexus 7 instead, or Nexus 10.
Right.
What else do we want to talk about?
So wait, so what's the app selection like in the Amazon App Store for Android?
It's for the most part, it's a subset of available apps that are available in the Play Store. Some of them have custom tweaks made. Like, for example, games will tie into their version of the game scoreboard rather than Google's or iOS's.
I found it really bad on the 7, and
the selection or
both the selection and the rendering. I mean, the rendering was a little better because a 7-inch tablet is closer in size to like a 4.7-inch phone than an 8.9 tablet. When you blow up a phone app on an 8.9 tablet,
that's the normal Android tablet problem, right?
Doesn't look good.
The thing that I found, like the stalwarts, your Facebook app is here. Here it is. You can see probably this is going to be a picture of Gary's kid. Wait, that is an email. I don't know what I clicked there. Facebook, Twitter, that kind of stuff's there. The basics of media streaming: HBO Go, Netflix, Pandora. I don't think there's an RDO app available.
This looks terrible.
This is the phone app scaled up. It's not a tablet optimized app. This is the price of doing business as an Android app on a tablet. Basically.
But for your basic consumption things, like if you want to use your books, your movies, your music, Spotify or something, that's for the most part going to still be in the Amazon App Store.
And if you have ripped videos, assuming you rip them the appropriate way, then you can play them on this device. You just copy. It shows up as a USB device, so you can copy it over. Or I think you can even download them cloud drive if you're paying for the high-end service. Like as a consumption device, it's quite good. There's a couple of other features that are kind of interesting. There's this kid feature, which is called Free Time. Norm, I've created an account for you.
Okay.
It's called Norm. Kittens. You have a kitty. And I have said Norm is allowed to use these things. He can read 1Q84,
perfect.
The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
all right.
Leviathan Wakes, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and Watchmen. And you can play these apps. Bejeweled 2.
That sounds perfect for me.
Welcome to Hell.
Awesome. And you lock this with just a password?
This is locked with like a 4 to 8 letter digit code, essentially a PIN.
Yeah. Kid mode is fine. I mean, there's no multiple user accounts on this. Like there
you can't have multiple kids.
Right, you can have multiple kids, but it's not like a full user account like with Jelly Bean.
No, it is. That's not available here. The one thing that is neat is it does create separate profiles for the different kid profiles. So like if I have you and an imaginary second child, then the saves are going to be different. So you'll have your own Bejeweled progress. That works with pretty much every app that I tried. You can set books, movies, all that kind of stuff.
Get out of the kid mode.
Can you unlock the kid mode?
This is tricky. Is it like a hardware button push?
No, it's right here. You just went right by it. Exit free time. My password is 12345.
No kid's going to guess that.
Nope.
You can only count to 4. Like all the other Kindles, whether it's the ebook Kindle or the Fires or the Fire HDs, there are offers on this.
Yeah.
And you do not like the offers.
It's not that I don't like the offers. I find that if you're paying this is the cheap version of this tablet. This was $300. The expensive version of this go up to $600. I feel like an extra $15 to get rid of offers is kind of a little chintzy when you get to that, when you're paying $600 for a device.
Right. But at $300, that's what? That's a whole.
That's 5%. Cheaper than an iPad Mini. It's 2 more inches of screen. I'm okay with that at that point.
If you're giving this as a gift, though, do you want to tell the person you're giving it to, I couldn't spend the extra $15 to get rid of the offers? Enjoy these ads.
There's a lot of add-ons for this because they also don't include a power brick. which isn't that big a deal for a phone because you can plug that in your computer, any number of wall warts. This is a slow charge on a normal 500 milliamp USB port. It takes about 14 hours. Even if you plug it into the old Kindle charger, the white one that came with previous editions of the e-ink Kindles, it's still like an overnight charge, basically.
Overnight charge. Wow, that's annoying. But you said you didn't have to charge it very often.
Did not have to charge it very often. They sell a fast charge for this that'll charge it in 4 or 5 hours for $10. So if I were spending $10 extra on something for someone who I was giving this as a gift, I would give them the charger and let them decide to do the offers.
Yeah, because some of the offers will be like
the offers can be pretty good.
Occasionally.
Like I wouldn't suggest taking a Bose offer ever, but Sony has, and you can go and see this is going to be a discount on Sony stuff. A lot of times it'll be local things, so you can go get a spa day for $50 instead of $100 or something like that.
Delightful.
Yeah, it's I've never. The only time I've ever clicked on them was when it was, hey, do this offer and you get $5 worth of free credit in the MP3
music store.
Every single time I'll do that one.
And then you do that one and it doesn't disappear. It stays there.
Yeah, it stays there forever and ever.
Awesome.
A couple of other things to talk about in terms of hardware. The power button we touched on a little bit. It's on the side here. It's really an uncomfortable place to hit.
Yeah, you said it was easy to push. On the 7, it's actually too recessed on the 7 to push.
It's easy to push accidentally.
Huh.
So like when you're picking it up, you'll just grab it and you bounce into it with your hand.
Oh, wow. It seems like they're overcompensating because the 7 was actually difficult to find. It's way too small in the 7, I found. And it looks like it's too easy to push.
They do a volume rocker, which I like. The iPad mini has individual buttons for the volume up and down, which I find to be a little bit awkward.
You wish there was a home button.
I wish that there was a physical home button. We're on the home screen now, so I'll go, let me jump into a web browser here. When you're in landscape mode, as the home button's on the lower right-hand corner of the screen, eventually, in some apps, like the e-reader, it'll just disappear. So I'm going to go into a book. It'll stay up for a second. We tap, it goes away. Wait, where's my home button? Where'd it go? Where's the home button? Right. You have to tap to get it back. That's a little bit annoying, but that's not bad. The frustration comes when you rotate it, and all of a sudden, the home button's on the lower left-hand corner of the screen.
That's very intuitive.
I don't know why it's there. I assume that they moved it because that's where they're expecting you to hold it with your left hand. It's an unfortunate thing. You're always looking for the home button of this thing.
A little more consistency.
Especially when you're on unfamiliar apps.
Would be nice. And on the Nexus 7, you have the home button. You have settings. You also have a multitasking carousel. No multitasking carousel.
I would say it's light multitasking. Some apps, it'll save your state. For example, if I go back in the browser, it'll have the same tabs open I had before. Sure. If I go into Facebook, who knows what's going to be up? It's probably going to be just the most recent thing from my feed. Yeah. I'm sure that there's probably a way to multitask. I haven't been able to figure it out, which is probably not a good sign.
And this camera?
So it's a front-facing. It's just it's for video conferencing. You're not going to take any real pictures.
Please don't take photos with tablets.
It's not a good camera, but it's fine for Skype.
All right. So is this the best tablet for this price at any price, as Jeff Bezos said?
This is a situation. If you want something, it's not very multi-purpose. It's a great consumption device. If you buy a lot of books from Amazon, rent movies from Amazon, really invested in using Netflix and HBO Go and that kind of thing, it's fantastic for that.
So why would someone get the 8.9 if they were just going for Wi-Fi as opposed to just the 7?
That is a fantastic question.
This is if you're going for an affordable tablet, $200.
The bigger screen is a lot better. If this lasts as a device long enough for us to get to a time when they're streaming at 1080p video, that's really exciting because you can actually show 1080p video in native resolution on this screen.
If they did something like 1080p for Amazon Prime was only available on a Fire HD, and everyone else on the apps on the iPad is limited to 720. Yeah. And maybe on the LTE version, I mean it's AT&T LTE, so your coverage situation may vary.
40-ish cities.
Right. If they allowed some free streaming, and a cheap data plan, that might be more compelling.
So you hinted on this right just a moment ago. There's two versions of this. There's a Wi-Fi only and there's an LTE version. This is the 16 gig Wi-Fi version. There's a 32 gig Wi-Fi version as well, which is, I think, so this starts at $300. It's $15 more if you want to remove offers across the board. The 32 gig version of the Wi-Fi one is $370. The 32 gig, the LTE only has 32 gig and 64 gig versions.
Do you remember when Bezos went up on stage and he's like, oh, 8 gig tablets, that's not really usable because you're going to have OS, you're going to have a lot of media.
I think everybody agreed. Nobody's making 8 gig tablets anymore.
Nexus 7 starts at 16 now. Yeah. Is 16 gig on this enough?
So it works out to be just under 13 gigs usable. You lose 3.5, 4 gigs to the math and to the OS. I think as a streaming device, yeah, it's totally fine.
How about for photos? Because I use my iPad as a photo storage viewer because it has a nice screen, and this one seems like it has a nice screen. So
I don't know how you would get photos on here unless you're plugging them in with a USB device. You can sync them across Amazon's cloud drive, or I guess you could use Dropbox. The Amazon cloud drive, I haven't looked at how they handle compression, so it may be that they're compressing in a way that you don't want. The photos, it'll automatically sync your Facebook photos over. I found that a little bit surprising since I hadn't hooked this up to Facebook. But then you have Facebook quality photos, which you probably don't want. There's a difficult path on or off for this if you want to do photo editing as you're doing with the iPad.
Yeah.
The photo stream gives you a good bucket for that without losing quality. Yeah, like I said, the things that work really well on here are playing games, watching videos, reading books. Anytime you're going to want to get into something that you're going to actually want to build content with, I think probably you're better off with something else.
And it's a fairly big tablet for that, for those things.
I like the 7-inch size a lot better for that.
We're in a weird state where, tablets, the revolution started with 8.9, and we still have 8.9, or 9.7. And now this is a size down.
Kind of. I mean, for all intents and purposes, this is the same size. I mean, the screen size, the height is the same on this. The thing that you lose is because it's a different aspect ratio, because it's 16 by 10 instead of 4 by 3.
Right.
That's the only reason it's smaller.
We're kind of converging. I mean, 7-inch tablets. Now we have the iPad Mini, which is bigger, 7.9, getting close to 8, and this 8.9. So we really have a more fuller spectrum of sizes and weights.
There's a lot of choice. The thing I would tell people is this isn't necessarily like buying a TV where having a 60-inch TV is almost always going to be better than having a 55-inch TV. If this is something you leave on the couch, get the big one. That's fine. You're going to sit with it on your lap. You're going to look down. You're going to fuck up your neck by having the twisty neck all the time. But it's a fine tablet, like for that. If you're going to carry it around with you every day, get the one 7-inch tablets, whether it's the iPad Mini, the Kindle Fire 7.7-inch, or the Nexus 7. It'll probably serve you much better.
All right.
So yeah,
that's Kindle Fire 8.9. I think we covered all the high points.
LTE.
Yes.
The LTE deal is interesting. It's $50, 250 megabytes a month. That's megabytes. So that's a quarter of a gigabyte of transfer a month. You can't use it to download applications that are over a certain size. You can't use it to stream video. They're saving you money on both of those things.
Yep.
It also
email.
Yeah, exactly. It also comes with some cloud storage for that $50 a year. So it's basically twice as much as iTunes Match. $40 a year more than cloud storage, additional cloud storage. You get a lot more for that. And like you said, checking email, maybe browsing web, checking a map when you're out and about. So yeah. This is it. This is Kindle Fire HD 8.9. I think it is okay. It's really good if you want to watch videos.
I wouldn't buy this if I was looking for a big Android tablet. I would consider a Nexus 10 over this.
Nexus 10, Nexus 7, I think are both better multi-purpose devices. iPad Mini is the same price as this. That's crazy. But I think the value that you get out of the iPad Mini is much greater than the value you get out of this.
And the advantages of being one-handed, lightweight.
One-handed, and you can put it in your bag and forget it's there.
Okay.
So for Tested, I'm Will.
I'm Norm.
We'll see you guys later.
Bye.